Hey folks, I wanted to make this video to explain diminished chords. A lot of people think that diminished scales are what you're supposed to play over diminished chord, and that is almost never the case. So I'm going to go through a bunch of jazz standards and show you exactly how to play over them. Okay, so Someday My Prince Will Come is a great example of a jazz standard that uses a diminished chord and people play the wrong scale on. The tune goes like this. So the context where that diminished chord happens, that's in that phrase right there. So we have a D minor 7 going to a C sharp diminished to a C minor 7. So this is the classic example of a passing diminished chord. Usually this occurs in a major key going between steps 2 and 3. This case we're going down from 3, flat 3 to the 2, which then turns into a 2-5, right? So the key here is to remember what's happening in the melody, right? The melody goes like this. So that diminished chord, C sharp diminished, the melody note is an A. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but if you have a C sharp diminished chord with an A in it, isn't that really just an A7 flat 9? I think that's an A7 flat 9 chord. It's just disguised as a diminished chord. And I'm going to tell you that that is 99.99999% of the time what diminished chords are. They are usually an inversion of a dominant 7th flat 9 chord without the root. So the question then becomes, what scale do we use on a dominant 7th flat 9 chord? Well, let's go back to the 3 chord prior, this D minor chord. So this is the 3 in B flat, right? But for a moment, let's consider like this is just a 1 chord, and this A7 flat 9 is the 5 chord that corresponds to it. So therefore, I will play D harmonic minor. So D harmonic minor is this, right? But I'm going to start it on the C sharp. So that is the scale that makes more sense to me on this particular diminished chord. Okay, let's take a look at a song that has one of the most famous diminished chords in the jazz repertoire. That's Wave by Antonio Carlos Jobim. It occurs in the second bar of the tune, and it sounds like this. So, what do we do in this situation? You can look at the totality of the sound, right? We have the chord plus the melody, which includes that F sharp. So if I look at that, that's actually an F sharp dominant 7th with a flat 9. So to me, that means we could use B harmonic minor, which, let's see what that sounds like in context. That sounded pretty nice to me, actually. Now, there's another option, and this is where it might get a little bit confusing. If we're thinking we're in D major, and then we take the approach where you simply change only what you need to change to get to the next chord. So we have a D major chord going to a B flat diminished. The only note we need to change from the D scale to get to this chord is the B needs to change to a B flat. So if we play the D major scale, but just add a B flat, you get this. That scale has a name. That scale is called harmonic major because it looks like major on the bottom and it looks like harmonic minor on the top with that augmented second interval. Now notice that that's really not all that different from the scale that we just played a second ago, that B harmonic minor. Here's an example of trying to use that harmonic major. 1, 2, 3. when it comes to making decisions about which scale to use, once you understand how that works and you've arrived at the conclusion that I arrived at, that this scale is kind of like the most natural way to do it, now you're free to try experimenting with that other diminished scale. If you really want, there are some places where you could use a diminished scale. And this, in my opinion, is actually one of them. And now it's sort of a question of taste and what sounds best to you. But if you do the diminished scale from the B flat, we get all of the notes that we need. We get the diminished chord and we get the F sharp. So technically speaking, if you wanted to, you could actually, in this case, play the whole half diminished scale. Now, to me, to my ears, it sounds a little weird when you throw the E flat in there, but that's really the only difference between that and the harmonic minor variant that we looked at before. Here's an example of what it sounds like if I use this scale. So let's talk about another Jobim tune. I've mentioned before, he's the master of diminished chords. Corcovado, right? Corcovado. Right away we have a diminished chord. It's usually written in the chart like G sharp diminished, but really, again, this is really it. If you look at the melody has an E, so it's a diminished chord with an E, which therefore is E7 flat 9. So in that case, again, A harmonic minor, A harmonic minor. So how about another example of a super common use of a diminished chord from the famous song All the Things You Are? It occurs in the last A section right here. That one. Wrong note in the melody, that's okay. So what is happening in there? We have the 4 chord to the minor 4 chord, to the 3 chord, to the flat 3 diminished. But what is the melody note? The melody note is a G, right? This chord in the chord chart is most often listed as a B diminished, which gives you this. But if we play a B diminished and have a G in the melody, I'm here to tell you, my friend, that that is a G7 flat 9. And what is the scale that goes with a dominant 7 flat 9 in 99.9999999 situations? That is the harmonic minor scale. So not G harmonic minor, however, it's the C harmonic. You have to think this G7 chord is the 5 chord in C minor. It's going like that, except in this song we're going backwards. We're going like that. But the scale is C harmonic minor. If I play it from here, that's what it is. If I play it from the B, that's what it is. So that's the scale that actually fits the best in that song. Some other examples. Well, there's the very famous Misty chord, of course, right? Where you have, in the original form, it's an E flat major 7, but people like to do this. So what do you play when you're improvising over that? So E flat diminished major 7. Again, we have, there's your E flat diminished. There's your major 7, but if we take this and put it down here, and take this and put it up here, you get this. Again, D7 flat 9. What's the scale that you should play with the dominant 7 flat 9? Everybody say it with me now. Harmonic minor. Harmonic minor, but not from D, from G, because if we think the D7 is the 5 in the key of G minor, then the harmonic minor scale is this. Right, it's G harmonic minor. Okay, going a little crazy. Now, are there other possibilities in this particular usage of a diminished chord? There certainly are. That actually is a diminished scale. This is one of the places where, if you wanted to, you could use the whole half diminished scale. So The one thing that I will say though, that I like better about the harmonic minor scale is the harmonic minor scale has more in common with the E flat major scale, right? So it sounds less out compared to the key we're really in, which is E flat major. If I play E flat major, but if I do the diminished and I do the harmonic minor version, we still have we still have the third and the fifth from E flat major in that scale. I tend to stick with harmonic minor in these situations because to me it sounds nicer. Okay, let's pivot to one more demonstration. This is another example of a place where you can use the diminished scale, and this one is going to be the half step, whole step, and that is on the tune Caravan. So we have that big, long C7 chord, and if we look at the melody, we've got a flat 9, natural third, 7th, it's all dominant 7th, flat 9. This B is kind of a passing tone to the 7th. So we have a definite C7 with a flat 9, right? So that means you have a couple of choices of scales, but one of them is the half whole diminished scale, right? So that would mean you could play C, half step, that's the flat 9, whole step, that's the sharp 9, half step, that's the third, whole step, that's the sharp 11, that one's funky, half step, that's the 5th, whole step is the 13th, or the major 6th, I guess you could call it if you wanted, then the dominant 7th, and the root. So we have all of the important notes in that scale. Now, I'm going to also tell you that in this particular case, before you play that half whole diminished, you should think about playing, again, the harmonic minor. Harmonic minor is very often the first scale you should think of before you think of the diminished scale. But this tune, everybody plays it. A lot of people like to use their riffs on this diminished scale there, and it sounds really cool. But the harmonic minor is actually the natural scale that should go there. Why? Because this is a giant 5 chord. 5, 5, 5, 1. It's just a giant 5-1 going to F minor. And if we're in the key of F minor, that means F harmonic minor should work on that. The thing that's cool about the F harmonic minor is that inside that scale you have a C triad and a D flat triad. So you can kind of get that Andalusian cadence thing. But you can use the diminished scale there too. Now the diminished scale, that particular one, this half whole, actually all of them are filled with 4 dominant 7th chords. Maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't. You're about to learn it if you didn't. That means if we do this half whole diminished, inside that scale there's actually a C7 chord, there's an E flat 7 chord, there's a G flat 7 chord, and there's an A 7 chord. And you can play those at will. Now I think it lays really well to play them in first inversion, coming down like this. So you go C, A, G, E flat. So A, G flat, E flat, C, or you can go just playing the root, 5th and 7th, and then go up to the next one. So C, E flat, G flat, A flat. So